Welcome to our deep dive. This one is all about extinctions.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, we're not just talking about like the dinosaurs, but events that have completely reshaped life on Earth over billions of years.
Wow.
Yeah, you sent over some fascinating sources, and I can't wait to uncover not just what happened, but also what it all means for us today, you know?
Right.
Did you know that oxygen, the very thing we breathe, was once toxic to most life on Earth?
Oh yeah, it's true. And that's just one of the many paradoxes we'll be exploring today. Extinctions, often seen as catastrophes, have actually paved the way for remarkable biodiversity.
Yeah.
It's a story of destruction and renewal, and understanding those patterns is more relevant now than ever.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's dive right into that first extinction event.
Okay.
Going way back over 2.5 billion years ago, our sources describe a world dominated by single-celled organisms living in an oxygen-free environment.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds almost alien.
It does.
Then along came cyanobacteria, and everything changed.
Cyanobacteria were pioneers, the first organisms to perform photosynthesis.
Wow.
And while that sounds harmless enough, their waste product oxygen turned out to be incredibly disruptive.
So wait, you're saying that oxygen was basically pollution?
Well, yeah. Imagine a world suddenly flooded with a substance toxic to most life forms. It's wild.
It's almost hard to believe that something as essential to us as oxygen could have been so deadly. Can you paint a picture of what that world might have looked like?
Okay, so imagine a planet with oceans full of anaerobic life, thriving in a world, without oxygen.
Right.
Then slowly, as cyanobacteria spread, oxygen starts accumulating. And for the existing life, this was a catastrophe.
Oh, wow.
Mass die-offs occurred as this new toxic gas permeated their environment. This wasn't a quick event. It unfolded over millions of years.
Oh, wow. So this first mass extinction was a slow burn.
Yeah.
Driven by something that seems positive to us, photosynthesis.
Exactly.
What's the takeaway here?
Well, this event underscores the interconnectedness of Earth's systems. Seemingly small changes can have massive ripple effects.
Okay.
In this case, the rise of oxygen led to the demise of countless anaerobic species. But it also set the stage for the evolution of oxygen-breathing life, ultimately leading to us.
Oh, wow. It makes you wonder if things had unfolded differently, would we even be here today?
It's a great question.
But let's move on to extinction number 2. Snowball Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Around 800 million years ago, it's almost hard to fathom the entire planet encased in ice. How did anything survive that deep freeze?
It's a question that puzzled scientists for years. Imagine a world where the oceans are completely frozen over, miles thick in some places. Recent research suggests there were areas where the ice was thinner, maybe less than 10 meters, allowing some sunlight to penetrate, which was enough for some hardy photosynthetic organisms to survive.
Oh, wow. So even in this incredibly hostile environment, life found a way to cling on.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
What happened after this global freeze? Was it a slow, painful recovery?
Surprisingly, no. Our sources describe an explosion of biodiversity following the thaw. The survivors of Snowball Earth diversified rapidly, leading to the emergence of the first multicellular organisms and eventually setting the stage for the evolution of animals. It's almost as if the freeze acted as a reset button, creating new opportunities for life to evolve.
It's a reminder that what seems catastrophic can sometimes lead to remarkable innovation.
Yeah. Okay.
On to extinction number 3. The one that wiped out most of the incredible diversity that arose during the Cambrian explosion.
Yeah, the Cambrian explosion, roughly 530 to 535 million years ago, was a remarkable period. Most of the major animal groups we see today first appeared then, but this burst of life was quickly followed by a mass extinction, wiping out much of that newfound diversity. It's a stark reminder that evolution isn't always a straight line.
So what caused this sudden shift from flourishing to extinction? Was it another Snowball Earth situation?
Interestingly, one of the leading theories points to an event far beyond our planet. A gamma ray burst from a distant star.
A gamma ray burst?
Yeah.
That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
I know.
What would that have looked like on Earth?
Well, imagine a sudden, intense blast of radiation sweeping across the planet. These bursts release incredible amounts of energy, and if one were directed at Earth, it would be catastrophic. While we haven't directly observed such an event in Earth's history, the geological record hints at its possibility.
So even though it might sound far-fetched, there's some scientific basis for this theory.
Here is.
It definitely adds a whole new dimension to the idea of existential threats. But despite facing cosmic dangers, like gamma-ray bursts, life on Earth has proven remarkably resilient, hasn't it?
Resilient? Yes. But also incredibly vulnerable. And that brings us to extinction number 4. And this one's quite interesting because it seems to have been triggered by a seemingly positive development. The colonization of land by plants.
Wait, plants caused a mass extinction? How is that even possible?
Plants, especially early land plants, absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere as part of photosynthesis. As they spread across the continents, they drew down atmospheric CO2, leading to a significant decrease in global temperatures. This disrupted ecosystems accustomed to warmer conditions, triggering the Devonian extinction.
Oh, okay, so even something that seems beneficial, like the spread of plant life, can have unforeseen consequences. It's all about balance, isn't it?
Precisely. But just like with previous extinctions, this event also spurred some remarkable evolutionary innovations. The Devonian extinction is also when the first vertebrates began venturing onto land.
I'm picturing those early tetrapods, those brave pioneers taking those first wobbly steps onto land. Do our sources delve into any specific examples?
They do. One of the most fascinating is Tiktaalik, a so-called fishapod. It had characteristics of both fish and tetrapods, highlighting that transition from water to land. It's a perfect example of how life adapts and evolves to fill new ecological niches, even in the wake of a mass extinction.
Tiktaalik is a bit of a rock star in the evolutionary world, isn't it?
It really is.
It's a powerful symbol of life's ingenuity and adaptability. What other innovations emerged from this period?
Another significant development was the rise of reptiles and their groundbreaking adaptation, shelled eggs. This allowed them to reproduce away from water, opening up vast new possibilities for life on land. Imagine the evolutionary explosion that followed as life diversified and spread across the continents.
Okay, we've covered 4 major extinction events so far, each one a turning point in the history of life. I have a feeling things are about to get even more intense as we delve into the next extinction event, the Great Dying.
You're absolutely right. Get ready for the Permian extinction, the deadliest event in Earth's history. We're talking about the disappearance of nearly 95% of all marine species.
95%.
And 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species. It's a truly mind-boggling level of devastation.
That's almost unimaginable. What could possibly have caused such widespread destruction?
It seems to have been a perfect storm of catastrophic events, all happening around 252 million years ago. Imagine massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia, spewing out enormous quantities of toxic gases like sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. These eruptions lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, poisoning the atmosphere and oceans.
That sounds like a recipe for a global disaster. What were the specific consequences of this volcanic activity?
So these eruptions triggered a cascade of environmental disasters. First, the oceans absorbed massive amounts of carbon dioxide, leading to acidification. Then, as temperatures rose, the oceans struggled to hold oxygen, leading to widespread oxygen depletion. In addition, the buildup of toxic gases like hydrogen sulfide in the oceans further poisoned marine life.
It sounds like a truly apocalyptic scenario. I'm starting to understand why this is called the Great Dying. How did anything survive such extreme conditions?
It's a question that continues to fascinate scientists. Even amidst this devastation, there were pockets of survivors. Some species were simply more tolerant of the extreme heat, acidity, and low oxygen levels. These hardy creatures, though few in number, became the seeds of the recovery.
So even in the face of near total annihilation, life found a way to persist. It's both terrifying and inspiring. What does this event tell us about the long-term impact of extinctions?
Well, the Permian extinction was a profound reset for life on Earth. While it wiped out a vast majority of existing species, it also created opportunities for new forms of life to emerge. The survivors, those few lineages that made it through the darkness, became the ancestors of the dinosaurs, and eventually mammals, including us. It's a reminder that extinctions, while catastrophic, are also powerful drivers of evolutionary change.
It's a sobering thought, but also a testament to the incredible resilience of life. So from a world dominated by single-celled organisms through Snowball Earth and the rise and fall of countless species, we've arrived at our own era. And now we face a sobering reality. We're living through the 6th mass extinction.
A sobering thought, and one we can't ignore. This time, the cause isn't a runaway asteroid or massive volcanic eruptions, it's us. Human activities are driving the current extinction crisis, and the rate of species loss is accelerating at an alarming pace.
It's hard to grapple with the fact that we, as a species, are responsible for such widespread destruction. Let's take a deeper dive into this sixth extinction and explore just how serious the situation is. Welcome back to our deep dive into the history of extinctions. Before we move on to the sixth extinction, the one that we're currently living through, let's talk about another event that captures the imagination, the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's a story that's both fascinating and, in a way, a cautionary tale.
Yeah, the age of dinosaurs was a remarkable chapter in Earth's history, spanning nearly 180 million years. Following the Permian extinction, dinosaurs rose to dominance, evolving into an incredible array of forms, from the massive long-necked sauropods to the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex. Their story is one of adaptation, diversification, and ultimately vulnerability.
I think everyone has a bit of a dinosaur obsession at some point in their lives. They're such powerful symbols of, like, a lost world. But their reign wasn't meant to last forever, was it?
No, it wasn't. Around 66 million years ago, an event of unimaginable scale brought their dominance to a dramatic end. We're talking about the Chicxulub impact, the asteroid that slammed into Earth near the Yucatan Peninsula.
That's the one everyone knows about. It's become almost mythical, hasn't it?
Yeah.
This giant rock from space wiping out the dinosaurs.
It's a story that captures the imagination, but the reality was far more devastating than any myth. Imagine an asteroid estimated to be about 6 miles wide, smashing into Earth at tens of thousands of miles per hour.
Just trying to picture that makes me shudder. What would the immediate aftermath of such an impact have been like?
Well, the impact released an unimaginable amount of energy, equivalent to billions of atomic bombs. The immediate effects would have been catastrophic: earthquakes, tsunamis, and wildfires on a global scale.
Yeah.
But the long-term consequences were even more devastating.
So it wasn't just the initial impact that wiped out the dinosaurs, it was the aftermath.
Exactly. The impact ejected massive amounts of dust and debris into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun and plunging the planet into darkness. This darkness lasted for months, perhaps even years, disrupting plant life and causing temperatures to plummet. It's hard to overstate the severity of this global environmental catastrophe.
It's like something out of a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
A sudden, cataclysmic event followed by a long, dark winter.
Right.
No wonder so much life perished.
The estimates vary, but it's thought that around 75% of all plant and animal species went extinct, including the non-avian dinosaurs. It was a turning point in Earth's history, marking the end of the Mesozoic era and the beginning of the Cenozoic era.
It's incredible to think that an event that happened millions of years ago, a single moment in geological time, had such a profound impact on the course of evolution. But as we've seen throughout our deep dive, extinctions create opportunities as well.
That's an important point. While the Chicxulub impact was a tragedy for the dinosaurs, it also opened up ecological niches that allowed mammals to diversify and thrive. In the absence of the dinosaurs, mammals radiated into new forms, eventually leading to the evolution of primates and ultimately us.
It's mind-blowing to think that our own existence is tied to this ancient extinction event. If that asteroid hadn't hit Earth, the world would be a very different place today.
It's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
We often focus on the loss associated with extinctions, but they're also powerful drivers of change, shaping the trajectory of evolution in ways we can't always predict.
It makes you wonder, like, what would have happened if the dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct? Would mammals have ever gotten their chance to, like, shine?
It's impossible to say for sure, but it's a fascinating question. Perhaps mammals would remain small, nocturnal creatures living in the shadows of the dinosaurs, or perhaps they would have evolved along a completely different path, giving rise to creatures we can only imagine.
It's a reminder that the history of life on Earth is full of contingencies, twists and turns that could have easily gone in different directions. But let's bring our focus back to the present. We've traced the history of extinctions through billions of years, from the oxygen revolution to Snowball Earth, from the rise and fall of the dinosaurs to the present day. And now we face a sobering reality. We're living through the sixth mass extinction, an extinction driven not by natural disasters, but by us.
It's a heavy realization and one that we need to confront head on. This time, we're not just passive observers of a cosmic drama. We're the actors, and the choices we make today will determine the fate of countless species, including our own.
I think that's what makes this particular extinction event so different and so challenging. We're not dealing with this sudden cataclysmic event like an asteroid impact. We're dealing with a slow-moving but no less devastating crisis that's unfolding all around us.
You're right. The sixth extinction is characterized by what's called anthropogenic change, meaning it's driven by human activities, and those activities are having a profound impact on the planet's ecosystems.
Our sources paint a pretty stark picture of the current situation. They talk about habitat loss, climate change, pollution, overexploitation of resources. All of these factors are contributing to an unprecedented rate of species extinction.
It's a grim reality, but one we can't afford to ignore. Scientists estimate that current extinction rates are hundreds, perhaps even thousands, of times higher than the natural background rate. That means species are disappearing at a pace that hasn't been seen since the last mass extinction event.
Those are sobering statistics. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the problem, but I think it's important to remind ourselves that we're not powerless in the face of this crisis. There are things we can do to mitigate the damage and protect the biodiversity that's left.
Absolutely. Despair is not an option. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the resources to make a difference. The question is, do we have the collective will to act?
That's the million-dollar problem, isn't it? The will to change our behaviors, our systems, our way of life. It's a daunting challenge, but I believe it's one we can overcome. After all, we're a species that's overcome incredible challenges throughout our history.
That's true. We've faced adversity before, and we've found a way to adapt and innovate. The sixth extinction is arguably the greatest challenge humanity's ever faced, but it's also an opportunity to redefine our relationship with the natural world and create a more just and sustainable future for all.
Okay, that's a powerful message of hope amidst all this doom and gloom. But let's get specific. What are some tangible actions we can take, both as individuals and as a society, to combat this extinction crisis? Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring the history of extinctions from ancient catastrophes to the sobering reality of the sixth mass extinction, the one that we're causing right now.
Right.
It's heavy stuff, but as we were just discussing, it's not a time for despair. It's a time for action.
Absolutely. The situation is urgent, but it's not hopeless. We have a wealth of knowledge and resources at our disposal, and if we can harness those effectively, we can make a real difference.
So let's talk about solutions. What are some of the most impactful things we can do to combat this crisis? Our sources mention habitat loss as a major driver of extinction. What are some ways that we can protect and restore habitats?
Well, protecting existing habitats is paramount.
Okay.
This means expanding and strengthening protected areas, like national parks and wildlife refuges. It also means supporting organizations that work to conserve land and prevent deforestation.
So it's about safeguarding those areas where biodiversity is still thriving. But what about the habitats that have already been damaged or fragmented? Is there hope for those areas?
There's definitely hope. Restoration ecology is a growing field focused on repairing damaged ecosystems. Planting native trees, removing invasive species, and reintroducing native wildlife can all help to bring back biodiversity and ecosystem function.
It's almost like we're playing ecological detectives, you know, figuring out how to piece those ecosystems back together.
Yeah.
But habitat loss is just one piece of the puzzle. What about climate change? It's such a massive, complex issue. How can we even begin to address its impact on biodiversity?
Yeah, climate change is indeed a formidable challenge. It's altering habitats, disrupting migration patterns, and increasing the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. All of these factors are putting immense pressure on species already struggling to survive.
So it's like a double whammy. Species are losing their homes, and then the climate is changing around them, making it even harder to adapt.
Exactly. That's why it's crucial that we transition away from fossil fuels and invest in renewable energy sources like solar and wind power. Reducing our carbon footprint is essential for slowing climate change and giving species a fighting chance to adapt.
So it's about individual actions like driving less and conserving energy, but it's also about larger systemic changes like investing in renewable energy infrastructure and enacting policies to reduce carbon emissions.
Absolutely. It's a multi-pronged approach requiring action at all levels, from individual choices to global policy changes. But it's important to remember that every action, no matter how small, contributes to the solution.
I like that. It's empowering to think that we all have a role to play. So we've talked about protecting habitats, addressing climate change. What about other threats to biodiversity, like pollution and overexploitation of resources?
Pollution, in all its forms, is a major threat to biodiversity. We need to reduce our reliance on single-use plastics, promote sustainable agriculture practices that minimize pesticide and fertilizer runoff, and invest in clean technologies to reduce air and water pollution.
It's about recognizing that everything is connected. What we put into the environment ultimately affects the health of ecosystems and the species that depend on them.
Precisely. And when it comes to overexploitation, we need to manage fisheries sustainably, crack down on poaching and illegal wildlife trade, and shift toward more responsible consumption patterns.
It sounds like a lot to tackle. Where do we even begin?
It can feel overwhelming, but remember, every step we take toward a more sustainable lifestyle makes a difference. Supporting conservation organizations, making conscious consumer choices, advocating for policy changes, and simply spreading awareness about the importance of biodiversity are all valuable actions.
I think that's a great point to end on. It's easy to get caught up in the doom and gloom, but there's also a sense of hope and agency.
Yeah.
We're not just passive bystanders in this extinction crisis. We have the power to make choices that will determine the future of life on Earth.
Well said. The sixth mass extinction is a sobering reminder of our impact on the planet, but it's also a call to action. We have the opportunity to write a different ending to this story, one where humans and nature coexist in harmony and biodiversity flourishes for generations to come.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We've explored the past, examined the present, and now it's up to us to shape the future. Remember, every action counts, and together we can make a difference.